Try talking to yourself. You ever do that on your own? That's a rough go.
As hard as I can do it.
What I want to do here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Schmitt Show. We have Cody Kraus on. He is from the podcast, the Everything Real Estate Show. Is that correct?
That's it. Yep.
I'm gonna bring this sound down. Okay, so we got Cody here. I know you a little bit from basically from some family gatherings. There were one you claim. I think it's been more than one.
Yeah, I think one. I've been called the honorary Mennonite. So not Mennonite, but most people think I am because I got a German last name. And
Is that a German last name?
Kraus, yeah.
Is it real? Can you speak Low German?
Zero.
Come on.
Zero, yeah.
You would be my hero if you could do that.
No Low German, no
Nothing, eh?
regular German.
You know, just pretend. Eh? You get a few lines with
People come up and start talking to me in German, and I'm like,
really?
sorry, just
Come
got
on.
the last name, guys.
Well, when you hang out with a lot of Mennonites and now you live basically where, well, Adam's your best friend, right?
Well, I grew up in Ruthven, and huge circle of my friends are Mennonite, and
Yeah.
even if they weren't born Mennonite, like culturally Mennonite, a lot of them still go to Mennonite churches and stuff
Yeah,
like that
100%.
too. So, yeah.
Where do you go?
I go to a Lutheran church here in Kingsville. Yeah.
Oh, is that the one that hosts the bikes thing?
The Blessing of the Bikes. Yeah.
Yeah, we
with
did
Hogs
that.
for Hospice.
Yeah, I did that last year. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I know John Welk goes there as well.
Yep.
And he's been here, and I want to have him on too as well. And it's funny that we got into that because his wife taught me in grade 4.
Ev.
Yeah, and she was here. They were loading up that Christmas parade
Yep.
little buggy he's got for his convertible Mustang.
Yep.
Like, what a champ. She's
Yeah.
been doing it forever. And anyway, I asked, this is just going to be short, but I asked her, I'm like, by chance, do you keep any records of your pictures? You know, because my parents we didn't have much money when we got here and whatnot. And so we never got the pictures. We always got the pictures with a label on it.
Like the class photo.
Yeah, but you had to
the
buy
watermark.
the watermark. But now you can take them out. Back then you couldn't. But she's like, let me check with my daughter because she was in the same grade. Sure enough, she sent me a picture. I said, I have one picture. I got a blue sweater on, and it's the only picture I have that I got long hair.
Okay.
And I'm like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Grade 4, whatever that is. And I'm like, she got it for me. And then it's just kind of funny how you build these relationships. And it's like, anyway, so I have talked to John a little bit, and I think he'll be coming on, hopefully.
Actually, Ev is my dad's first cousin.
Really?
Yeah.
What's her full name?
Evelyn.
Evelyn? Okay, so we had to call her Mrs. Welk.
Yep.
So it doesn't
That
seem
makes
right
sense
to
when
me.
you're 10. Yeah.
Well, you think about your teachers when you went to school. Like,
you can't
is
call
it
them
not
first name.
odd to say the first name? Like, oh man, I don't know. So anyway, going back to your history here a little bit. So you're German. You have a German last name.
I have a German last name. I'm a European mutt. My mom's family has been in Canada for forever.
Yeah. Was she born here too?
Yep. So were her parents, I think, Welsh or English background. They were Davises, but.
That's her maiden name.
Yep.
Okay.
Davis, yep. But yeah, we're just European mutts. We only know English. Been in Canada for a long time.
Yeah. Well, for us, we were, Russian, Ukraine, and then Germany, right? Like back then. And my grandmother actually lived here way before we even came.
Yep.
And then she went back to Mexico, which is weird because when they went out west, well, for the Mennonites for most part, when the school mandate came up and they didn't want to follow that,
Yep.
some stayed there, but a lot moved away because they did not want to follow that.
Yep.
And ever since, right? Like you've
having
seen
their own school system.
Yeah.
And their own churches.
Yeah. So they went to Mexico. They keep going further south and south to find their own spots, right?
You can't blame them. It's
No.
negative 10 outside today, so I'd like to go south.
No, dude. Actually, I'm going up north. We're leaving for Huntsville on Sunday, but I don't want minus 40. But since COVID, I started like going up north.
Yep.
And then it's like, and I never considered that before. I was a southern guy. So my brother's going on vacation in February. I said, Abe, I'm going up north. I said, I've been on a few vacations already. I need to,
Nice
if
and
there's an
quiet,
opportunity to work with the
peaceful.
weather. Oh, dude, you know what? Honestly, I never thought I'd be that type of guy. And me and Helen go, and we just chill and relax. We have a fire on. There's a hot tub there. And grab a couple books, jigsaw puzzle, and go.
It's a good weekend.
You know what? It's a good 5 days, man.
Oh, good.
No, I can't wait. I just hope the weather's going to be good. So anyway, so we got to talk about your, you know what? So You're from European descent. You're kind of from everywhere. You guys were basically here all your life. You have been anyway, for sure.
Yep.
So you went to Ruthven Public School with my nephew, Adam, and you guys were best friends growing up, eh? Were you his best man at the wedding?
No, his brother was.
What the heck was that? I know. That's always how it is, eh? The brother, but you were the second man there. I remember that. Anyway, so how many kids you got?
We have 4.
4.
7 and under, so 2, 3, 5, and 7.
How's that?
It's busy. It's a zoo every day, getting out the door and everything. But you know what? It's a hoot. We have a lot of fun.
You know what? How old are they? Again?
7, 5, 3, and 2.
Oh, yeah. I had 3 girls, man, and not right now. It's like I remember back then, if we wanted to go somewhere, a grocery store, like someone's staying home.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of packing up and.
Yeah. Well, I was the middle child between 2 sisters. Would have done anything for a brother growing up. So when Paige and I started dating,
yeah,
I was like, dude, I want 2 of each, and I know that could mean like 6 or 8, but
Yeah.
I'd really like 2 daughters and 2 sons. And
is that what you is that what you
two
have?
and 2. Yeah.
Okay, you might as well be Mennonite, man. You're there. You have the last name of 4 kids. You got
Honorary
beat.
Mennonite.
There
Yeah.
you go. Okay, so growing up, then what got you? So you Ruthven Public School. Where'd you go to high school?
Kingsville.
Okay, how'd you like that?
I'm not a classroom guy.
No,
I
eh?
wanted to drop out. My parents were very much against that. Made
Were you
me
a
stay in
troublemaker?
school. In a different way.
Yeah.
Not into like, drugs and fighting
No,
and all
no.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just didn't listen a lot, so I got kicked out of a lot of classes for
Really?
speaking out and
Speaking your mind?
whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Nothing wrong with that, I guess, if you got an opinion. But I mean, to a certain level.
Unless it's someone else's classroom and they say
Well,
no.
yeah, and it's their rules.
But no, I actually still have great relationships with some of my teachers. Like I see some of my grade school teachers in public still. High school teachers. Our church started doing, it was pre-COVID. We were doing lunches once a week at the high school. So our church would make lunch. We'd bring it over, hang out with the kids, do a little bit of a study or an activity, stuff like that. And so I maintained a lot of the relationships from high school.
Right on.
Still get together with my high school business teacher every year.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, so entrepreneurship, and then so in high school, did you do any post-secondary college at all?
2 semesters university and then dropped out.
Of just what, business?
Yep.
Everybody takes that business course, eh?
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew I wanted to go into business.
Yeah.
So I started working on my real estate license before I graduated high school. So I had to write like a competency exam.
Yeah.
So I had turned 18, but I didn't have a diploma yet. So you have to write like a competency thing to say, okay, yeah, you know what, you have enough base knowledge to start.
How'd you do with that?
Fine. It's
Yeah.
pretty easy.
Were
Yeah.
you one of those kids that just learned and absorbed right away? Like you didn't have
the
to show up
stuff I
to class,
wanted
you
to.
didn't have to study, you would pass. I mean, if you know what I mean, one of those.
Yeah, I'm a person who likes to understand things, not memorize. So
Yeah.
typically if you grasp a concept and understand it, then you don't have to study as much. Whereas if you're just a memorization person, then you have to study like crazy because
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
and so that was me, is I like to, if I was going to focus on something, I wanted to understand it. And once I understood it, I got it. And it came fairly easy, but that doesn't mean everything did. Like I'm not
No, only maybe your interest, right?
not a science guy, not an English guy. I don't speak other languages,
Yeah.
anything like that. But numbers and
That's your
business
game.
concepts. Yeah.
You know what? If you're going to be good at one thing, now is that in regards to maybe your dad had something to do with that growing up, or no? Because he's in real estate too as well, right?
Yeah. So both sides of my family are entrepreneur background. So like if you go way back to my grandfather and his dad, farmers.
Yeah.
One of the first apple farmers in the area. And
That's
I mean,
awesome.
that's entrepreneur, right? You're
Yeah,
growing
100%. Are you kidding me?
growing a product, and then you got to take it to the market and sell it. And when my grandpa put in apple trees, again, they were one of the first in the area. But the thing is, you put in an apple tree, you don't get apples year one.
No. You got to wait a few years.
And so their only income in their family was farming. So they would plant apple trees in rows, but then they would plant like 2 rows of peppers or 2 rows of tomatoes in between
Oh,
the
no
rows
kidding.
of apple trees while they were waiting for the apple trees to start producing.
I didn't know that. Has anybody ever done that other than you? Like that's a concept I've
haven't
never
done
heard
it,
of.
But my family had to do it. They didn't have any other option.
Well, that makes
They were
sense,
like,
though.
We want to grow apples, but even if we put in the trees, they don't produce anything for a couple of years. And when that's your only income,
You know what though?
gotta do what you gotta do.
I never thought of that. I mean, you do have to do an entrepreneur. Like, you gotta hustle, man. You know what I mean? You're responsible for. I mean, everybody is responsible for feeding their family.
Yep.
And I know with the way I was raised, it was the man has to take care of the wife and the kids, and that was just. Go ahead, whatever.
no, it's all good.
It was just the way I was raised, and I like to keep those those values and then, some like the morals and stuff like that. But that's for whatever. But anyway, so going from high school, so you dropped out of college, so you wasted some money there.
Yeah.
But and saved some by getting into real estate when you wrote that.
I'm not bitter about going to university. If anything, it confirmed that I didn't want to go down that path. Day one of university, the dean said, "Do you guys know why you're here today? It's that you can get a great job after you're finished in school." And I was like,
I got an opinion on that too.
We're at the business school. I thought you were going to teach us how to run a business here, not how to get a job. Like my intention isn't to be employed; it's to be the employer.
100%.
And I'm like, if that's the end goal, I don't know what I'm doing here.
And that's what they teach.
That's what he told us, and so
I don't think they have a course for entrepreneurship anywhere.
they might. You know what? To be honest, if I would have gone to say college and taken a marketing course, I might have stayed in it because with college they let you get into your field of specialty almost right away.
Yeah.
University they typically make you study general practices for 2 years, and I was like, I don't need to know accounting. I'm gonna have an accountant, right?
You knew where you were going.
Yeah.
You're gonna hire somebody to do that for you.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, it's good to know the basics.
I agree.
Right? You need to understand how your balance sheet works and profit and loss and debits and credit. Like you need to understand those basics, but I didn't need to understand them in depth. And a lot of what they were doing was like advanced math courses. And I'm like, they make calculators. Like we live in.
Yeah. I remember my teacher always telling me, you won't always have a calculator in your hand, and I do. I literally do.
The basic math, great. Like try and frame a house without understanding basic math, right?
Well, no, for sure. I can't. Fractions is a tough goal for me, man.
Yeah, but no, advanced functions. That's what calculators and accountants are for in spreadsheets.
You know what? My brother said the same thing, and he's owned greenhouses and whatnot, and he dropped out of school at a very young age. I'm sure he won't have a problem with me saying that. But he did the same thing. He dropped out before, high school or whatever, and very young. And he ended up, I got him the job there, and he ended up owning the place. And he's the one, just like you. He's the one that hired the accountant and those college students that got degrees and stuff like that. But
well, we had a high school teacher. He taught business, and he really drilled into our head opportunity cost, right? The theory of opportunity cost. So to me, going to university
cost money, you mean?
No, opportunity cost. So
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
right. Like if you're going to go to university and it's a 4-year program, you're giving 4 years of your life to that program. It's in 4 years that you could give somewhere else.
100. Oh,
right.
Yeah,
so a lot of students are coming out of university and they have the degree, and the employers are going, "We want people with job experience." But we don't have job experience. We were busy getting the education we thought you wanted. Well, now they want job experience because the education used to be a rarity. It's like, oh, he's got a business degree, we better hire him.
Back in the day, it was.
Now it's very common, and I had to explain that to my mom because my mom went to business school. She was in sales. Then she ran a business for 35 years. So she's like, "Cody, if you want to run a business, you got to go to business school." And I'm like, I understood that was the context when you went. Not a lot of people had that degree, so it opened a lot of doors for you. The thing is now everybody's got college education. A lot of them don't have work experience. So I looked at it and said, okay, if I'm going to spend 4 years of my life and $10,000 to $20,000 a year, what if I were to not go into debt that $10,000 or $20,000 a year, and I actually went and got a job, and I did specific training for the field that I want to go into, i.e. real estate, because technically I had to go to a college, but it's not a college program where you go to classroom study or anything like that. So I said, well, look, I'm going to go into my field right away, within 6 months of starting the process. I'm not going to go into the debt, so, maybe I won't make as much money day one on the job, but I also don't have...
You'll catch up pretty quick.
That's my idea.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I believe in, like, there's, I could see, like, were your parents pretty disappointed when you dropped out?
Oh, yeah.
I believe that. But now I look at you now, and, well, what do they think of you now? We got to be pretty proud of this guy, you know what I mean? That
they're at peace with it. Yeah.
You know what, though? Like, you look at your kids, and then you wonder, it's like, I really think entrepreneurs they're pretty well mostly born. It's in you.
Well, and they were both entrepreneurs, so I think they understood the struggle, and they didn't necessarily want that for their kids. I think they were okay with us going into it, but they probably wanted us to have a fallback plan. Like, what if entrepreneurship doesn't work out? You still need to be employable.
I get it, yeah.
Like, if you don't have the education, what are you going to fall back on?
But I think entrepreneurs themselves, if they fail and they're real, they'll just get back up again and try again.
Well, and like you said, you do what you got to do. So, like, I was going to university, but I put all my courses on 2 days a week. So it went from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And then I got a job working Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays for a sales company.
Yeah.
And I was selling nuts and bolts. and like shop supplies.
I see you. I see you being good at that.
So
I just do.
I was doing that 3 days a week. I was going to school 2 days a week, and then I was working in a restaurant, cooking and bartending on the evenings and weekends.
Dude, that's the way to do it.
Then my mom had her tanning salon, so I was the chief,
I didn't know you guys owned that till actually about 4 years ago. But anyway,
so I was the chief light bulb changer there, and then
Get
I was
outta
getting my
here.
real estate license. So I was, doing 3 or 4.
you got
different
your hands
jobs.
dirty.
Well,
You got some skills.
I was driving a pickup that used a ton of gas, and I was paying for tuition, so I had to get to school. And
You know what though? I think that so your parents, when they saw you drop out, and they're like you said, they were disappointed. But you had a goal. You knew where you were going. You were striving. I can only imagine them saying you dropped out and then not doing nothing.
no, so it was a little bit different reception. So I opted to. My parents, they didn't believe in paying for your education because they wanted you to value it.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of parents will say, okay, I'll pay for their education. And essentially it can end up being, not to put everybody under one roof, but for a lot of people, it's an extended high school. Mom and dad are paying for it, so I don't have to worry about it.
Let's party a little bit longer.
Yep. But they said, look, you're going to pay for your school. Now, if you're going to live on campus, we'll help with your living expenses. You pay for tuition and books.
Yeah.
We're going to pay for half of a laptop. And if you decide not to live on campus, we'll help you buy a car. But you're gonna pay.
They're willing to help you enough, but you had to do something your own too.
Yep. And so when
That's
I dropped
smart.
out, Dad's like, "Hey, I paid for half your laptop. You got to pay me back."
Good for him.
And he's like,
so it should be.
I paid for half your used truck, so you got to pay me back for that.
Oh,
and,
you must have been a little burnt by that, eh?
And rent starts now. And I was like, Dad, like,
Yeah,
we
give me
get
a break,
along
man.
Really good, like,
Yeah, but you know
don't
what?
you want me at home? And he goes, I love having you at home, son, but there's no free rides here. He goes, I was willing to help you out while you're in school. He goes, now that you're working, you're an adult, you're 18. Yeah, you're
What
gonna
did
have
that
to pay
teach you
bills.
though? What did that teach you now?
I look back and I'm like, I'm doing the same thing for my kids.
You
And,
absolutely.
it made me, you know what? I always wanted to get married early, get married young. I always wanted to have
you
kids.
accomplished that.
And so, you know what? When I was 18, I'm like, okay, well, now that I got to pay Dad rent, I'd rather just go buy a house. And so
Is that
I
what you
started
did?
saving for a house, and I didn't stay at home very long. I bought a house at 19.
Oh wow, good for you.
Got married at. No, sorry. I think I bought
How
a house
much
when
were
I was
houses
20.
back then? What was interest rates back then when you bought a house?
So I bought my first house at 20, which would have been in 20. I think in 2014 I bought it.
Oh yeah, okay.
End of 2013, beginning of 2014. And we got married at 21. So I bought it
how old are you? 30?
31.
I was gonna say yeah, it's right around that because I bought my first house at I think 2001 and it was like 96,000. My interest rate was like 7. But what was your interest rate at when you bought that?
It's probably around 4%. If I had to
And what was
guess.
that variable or was that logged in?
I've always been fixed.
Okay.
I like knowing what I'm getting into. And
Yeah, me too.
At the time, homes, like the average sale price back then was maybe 170, 180,000, and I couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
So I bought an old cottage that had been leaking for years, vacant, smelled nasty.
Come on.
Didn't have a furnace, didn't have air conditioner.
Locally here?
Yeah, in Kingsville.
Right on.
I paid $104,000 for it. Totally renoed the whole thing. Split the lot in half. Sold the lot off.
Did it yourself or did you diversify or what do you call it? Hire some other people to do some of it?
It's a good story. So I have a
Here,
grandpa.
let's see your Mennonite skills, eh?
Yeah, I have a grandpa. He's 93, 92 or 93.
Wow.
And he's a guy who always lived on his own farm, built furniture out of trees that fell down on the farm, like does everything himself.
Yeah, hands-on kind of guy.
Yeah, and he knew me quite well, and I was showing him my house, and I told him all the plans I had for it and everything, and he goes, cool, so who's doing the renovations? And I was like, yep, I'm going to tackle it. And he goes,
Really? Well,
he
see how
goes,
this goes.
You're pretty good at selling houses, right, Cody? I was like, well, I like to think so.
Yeah.
Like I've helped a couple families more than once now, so they're
Yeah.
coming back, so I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
And he goes, you haven't done many renovations before. I'm like, no,
No.
not really. And he goes, I bet if you put all the time and effort you're about to put into renovating, into selling houses, and
Yeah.
hired someone to do the renos, you'd be a lot further
Smart
ahead.
man. Smart man.
I did not expect that to come out of your mouth,
You
but
know
it
what,
was
though?
great advice.
He realized where your talents lied, right? Like, why not waste your time? You would have learned stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I mean, but I remember I did my own renovations and I learned, and I was a factory guy at the time. And it's just like I couldn't afford even to do that. But as an entrepreneur starting so young, like, so your first house came at 20 years old. When did you buy? Okay, so your cottage, was that the second place that you bought?
No, that was the first one. So
Oh, okay. Was
had
that for-
I had a 140-foot lot, so it was like a rectangle like this, and
Yep.
the house was on one side. So I actually put an application into the town to sever the lot in half.
You're a smart kid right off the bat.
It was advice from a mentor.
No,
He's
no,
like,
no, I
"You know,
know,
it's got
but
a
you
big
listen.
lot, so why don't you try it?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I think you're right." And so I looked at it and I'm like, okay, if I sever that in half, then I can keep the house over here, and if I sell the lot, then I can pay for a lot
Put
of
the money,
renovations
yeah.
in the house, right? And so to give you an idea of where the real estate prices were at the time, I bought it for 104,
Yeah.
totally renovated the whole thing,
Yeah.
sold it for 138.5.
Oh man,
Right?
jeez.
So not a whole lot of appreciation.
No, I was
there.
gonna say that's not much return, man.
No, I broke even on the house, but I sold the lot for 26,000.
There you go.
And going back now, I'm like, $26,000 for a lot.
That was a lot of. Oh man, what's one average lot go? What'd you pay for yours in that area? What's that go for?
That lot right now would probably be worth about 200. And I'm like,
Just a
man,
lot.
But that's what the market was at the
know.
time. I had it on the market for a year at $39,000 and couldn't sell it.
Honestly, I look at real estate and I'm a little scared for my kids, to be honest with you. And that's a lot with, and I want to be able to help.
Yep.
And it's tough because I just see where it is. And I just hope that we get to a certain point where it's a little bit more affordable. I don't know. Do you worry about that at all with your kids?
I don't think it's going to get cheaper from here because the
No way.
replacement cost is high. I mean, if you look at wages, if you look at material, it ain't going down.
No, it
And
never
so
does.
The thing is, like 10 years ago, the lot values around here used to be $40,000 to $80,000.
Yeah.
Now they're $250,000, and
Jeez.
that's a base, right? And so unless all of a sudden land values come down, which
Do
I
you
don't
ever
see
think
happening.
that might happen where a government comes in and reverses it for one? I've never seen it happen ever. When a grocery store marks their food up and they say inflation goes down, I haven't seen it happen. Have you?
No, and it's not the government that controls the land value. It's all private sector.
Yeah, I guess you're in that regard. But I mean, as far as like getting paid jobs and stuff like that, and what your food costs and everything else, that determines a lot of how much you can afford to buy a house and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Think about why it's not going to come down though, right? So the government's income is relative to the cost of things,
Yeah.
right? They get sales tax at 13% in Ontario.
Yeah.
So they're not going to bring down the value of vehicles. They're not going to bring down the value of real estate. In real estate, you might not pay
I agree.
necessarily on every property, but there's land transfer tax, right? And land transfer tax is like income tax. It scales up based on how expensive the property is. So like everybody going, yeah, my house went up in value $200,000. It only benefits you if you own more than one. If you only own one, it's relative to what you would sell it.
Makes
and
sense.
Buy, right? But if you own 10, you win. If you own one, you're losing because you're paying more tax when you rebuy. If you owned it for less than a year, then they're going to want to tax it as capital gains. Like it's a fallacy where you go, oh, I got to raise at work and I'm going to do way better. Well, maybe they're actually going to take more income tax and the cost of living is going up.
Yeah.
And if they're putting more money into the system and it's not hard money assets, it's fiat money, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe. I was laughing one day, our administrator at work, she goes, yeah, my brother called into the radio today to report a crime.
Yeah.
Minimum wage went up $1, but the cost of Tim Hortons coffee went up 10 cents the same day. And he goes, relative to the cost versus,
Yeah, it's a percent.
he goes, well, price of coffee went up like 7% today. Minimum wage didn't go up 7%.
No.
Right? So
No.
the
Well, what
cost,
is-
and then you
yeah.
add sales tax on top of that. Your income
It's
tax
a
goes up.
great way to
greater.
look at it, man.
Well, and so a lot of people are like, well, minimum wage needs to be a living wage. No, it doesn't. It's meant for students and people without skills to want to go better the skill set that they bring to the marketplace. And if you better your skill set, then naturally you bring more value and you'll get paid more. There is an example of a restaurant in town. When the government of Ontario raised the minimum wage up to $17, a lot of people are like, this is great. You know, now dishwashers making $17, they can afford to feed a family. One restaurant I talked to said, we don't have dishwashers now. There's not enough people coming out to eat for us to necessitate a dishwasher. So it's not that the dishwasher is getting paid more money. It's we eliminated that position, and now the cooks are doing their dishes after they're done cooking.
Wow.
Right?
You know what? And so you see it as from here on, like you can't see it. It's only going to get. I don't want to say worse, but yeah, worse. You know what I mean? But I see this.
I think houses are here now, and it's not to say that they're going to continue
It's always-
appreciating like
it's
crazy.
always
It's
gone
just
up, though.
They're not going to come down.
No, it never really has though.
It's
Like
just like groceries, like you mentioned.
market.
Butter went up to $6. Maybe it's on sale now for $5.50,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be $2.99 ever again.
no, I agree. And it's the thing is with me though. I don't want to get too political here, but I mean I'm a conservative guy, and that's where I lean on. You know what I mean? But with the government's coming in and they always promise they're going to bring prices down. Never happens, man.
No.
And every time you vote these guys in, it's like, man, are you voting for the lesser evil of the, or whatever you want to call that? But I mean, whatever your values and morals lie, and that's why I lean on that side of it all. But at the end of the day, like I said, just worried about my kids a little bit and what they can do to help themselves. And I know, like early on, entrepreneurship is definitely a way to go as far as if you want to make some money. That's actually another question I wanted to ask you. So how did you handle getting into being an entrepreneur, had to make your own money early on in life when you weren't sure if you could sell a house or not? How was the stress level early on?
Well, I worked like crazy. Like I said, I had multiple jobs, and the company that I was at and the team that I was on.
Were you okay? So when you were a real estate agent, were you still doing other jobs as well?
Yeah, so I got my license at 18, and I was a student and working 3 or 4 jobs. Right?
Okay. So I thought that was prior. So
No.
you were still okay. I get
And
what
a
you're
lot of
saying.
realtors do start part time in the industry while they have another job.
Yeah,
And
because you have to build that clientele, the trust.
yeah, but it's hard to if you can't give it full time effort, right?
I believe that.
Are you really the expert if you do it a few hours a week?
But how
like
else
a lot of
do you-
people say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert on anything in practice, right?
Yeah.
And so my mentor at my office, he's like, Cody, you got to do this full time or you can't be on our team anymore. So
Really?
he basically said it's
He
time
pushed
to sink
you.
or swim.
Good.
And it was kind of like when my dad said, okay, son, now that you're living at home and you're working, you got to pay
Yeah.
rent, you got to pay me for your truck back, all that kind of stuff. So it was a hard lesson, but I look back now and I'm like, if I wouldn't have done that then, I don't know if I would have ever been.
I think everybody gets to that brink of the entrepreneurship of jumping into a business, because I remember when I did it, and I only had like 2 friends that really supported me, and they said, Dave, we saw it in you a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I took their advice and I jumped in. I had nothing to lose. I lost everything. My story was, everybody kind of knows my story because I lost everything anyway. So I had nothing to lose, actually.
Yep.
And I started very humble. But anyway, when I started making some money, and it was good at the time, it was great. And I've never made that kind of money. I've never had financial freedom like I did then, because I was that paycheck to paycheck kind of guy. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's hard to live that today. It is what it is.
Most people live.
Well, over 90% of the world. And it's like, when I was able to actually pay for your meal and I didn't have to dodge to go to the bathroom, so I didn't have to pay for your meal or forget a wallet or whatever, it felt so good. So the money made me happy for about 3 months, and then that went away. And I'm like, for once, I was like, now what? And then I was like, okay, so I was doing well, but now work has to come in for me to be able to keep going and to keep the food on the table. And early on, it took me about 2 years to quit worrying so much, and then shut it down at 5 o'clock. For you guys, a little different hours, I don't know. But for me to just say, okay, hey, I got to separate some of this and dedicate to family time, because why did I do this?
Yeah. No, I went full tilt for 12 years.
You went hard?
Yep. And
Does that-
that came at the cost of not being home for dinner with my wife
Yeah.
and the kids. When I first started, it was easy. We got married, and my wife was still going to school in London, so she
No
was
kids.
living in London 5 days a week. I was by myself in Kingsville. Okay, and I kept going really hard after that, and we started having kids, and
That's
married
when it
and
gets
everything.
hard.
But after 2022, I was drained. I'd been working 70, 80 hours a week, putting 60,000 kilometers on my vehicle a year. Not home for dinner, not home for bedtime. I was really good at saying yes to my clients and no to my family.
Are you a yes guy? Are you a people pleaser?
Yeah.
By nature, me too.
Yeah.
And that's hard to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
You're always fighting against that.
And so that's why kind of at the end of 2022, coming into 2023, I decided to change things up a little bit and took another huge risk and decided to buy the company that I'd been operating out of. And I got out of sales. So I'm actually not in sales now. And I kind of put it all on the line again.
Okay.
But it was to get a more balanced schedule.
So you bought, I don't want to put names unless you want to say them, but so you bought the company you were working for.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. How's that going so far?
It was about 15 months ago.
It's another big risk, eh?
14 months ago. Yeah. I mean, we had to sell everything to liquidate
do it?
money. Yeah. So we had, pretty comfy, we were putting money away in our savings accounts.
Yeah.
We had paid for vehicles that were newer, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And to
do that.
free up money to get the company, it was okay. Sell
Sell all the good stuff that you had,
Sell
and
everything.
put and risk it all.
Yeah, and I was at peace with it. I mean, I'm a Christian, and I don't
Yeah.
believe that whatever I have here is my reward.
For sure.
I believe it's an eternal reward. And,
Yeah.
and the things that we have here, there's a really good book. It's called The 30-Day Money Challenge.
By who?
Art Rayner.
Okay.
And the concept that he pushes throughout the whole book is that we're not meant to be hoarders of blessings. We're meant to be conduits through which they flow.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going, okay, well, God, if you want me to
So give your nice car
have
away to
things-
somebody else is kind of what you're. I'm just.
No,
it's
it
kind of a
wasn't
joke.
necessarily that.
It's kind of a joke.
It was. I don't need to have those things, and I understand. Yeah, it's great to have, and it was comfy
Dude,
for my family, and they
the
serve
shine
us
word.
well and everything. But what was more important to me was spending time with my family.
100%.
And I saw this as a means to do that. And,
Do you regret that a little bit? Because I know I do. When I went in hard and I worked so much, and because we can never get those years back with the kids, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I regret. I would say that is the word. I don't know if there's another word for it. If I could get that time back, because you lose it so fast, and it's like,
well, and that's why I did it now when my oldest was 6.
yeah, and they're
right?
still
So I'm
young.
like, okay,
Good for you. You realized it.
now is the time to do it, and
Good for you.
do I regret that sometimes? Sure, because you look there and go like, man, I had financial stability 2 years ago.
We also got to feed the
Now
family.
as the business owner, it's like no, when if there's not enough money in a checking account to make payroll, where's the money come from?
Yeah, someone's
right?
gotta
It
do
comes
it.
from the business owner. And so that part is tough, and that's one of the parts of being an entrepreneur, and that's what you signed up for. But I kind of go in it with the attitude, you know what, it was never mine in the first place. It's his.
Yes, for sure.
And if he wants to, we were at the office this morning, and I was talking with one of our administrators about the parable of the 10 talents.
Yep.
Right. And so there was the wise king, and he was going away. And so he had 3 of his servants, and he gave one 10 talents and one 5 and one 1, which was a measure of money back then.
Yep.
And then he came back and he
Oh,
said
I
to his
remember this,
servants,
yeah.
what have you done with what I left you with? And the one who had 10 talents said, you know what, I invested it and I made another 10. So here's your 20.
Yep.
The next one with 5 said, you know what, I knew you're a ruthless man and you're shrewd. So I invested the money and here's 10. I earned 5 extra on top of the 5. And then it comes to the guy who he gave 1 and he said, well, what'd you do with it? And he basically said the same thing. I know you're a shrewd man and you reap where you didn't sow and you harvest where you didn't plant. And I don't know why they keep saying that, but that's the line they use.
Yep.
And he goes, I buried it in the ground and I didn't lose anything. So here's your 1 back.
Yeah.
And then the wise ruler called him a wicked and lazy servant. And he said, what little you have is going to be taken from you and given to the one who I can entrust with more. And so I'm going, I'm a steward of a number of things in my life. And I think the most important thing I was given to steward is my children, not assets, not money, not whatever. And if I'm stewarding money well and making a return on it and whatever,
Well, that's kind of the whole story was about.
but I'm ignoring my family, like,
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
where is my treasure?
Well, that's just it. You got to find that balance, because why did you do what you became? To get financial freedom, to have some more time with your family. That's the whole idea.
Do you know what I think I wanted to be self-employed in the first place was I worked in farms growing up and I worked in a kitchen growing up.
Yeah.
And I'm generally a very, very impatient person. And
Me
so
too.
if there's work to do, I just want to do it as quickly as I can and then get on with it. But working hourly jobs, I was working with people, especially being a high school student, you're getting minimum wage just because you hurried at doing dishes or you picked a few more.
But that's
ears
just
of
your
corn.
makeup, right? That's who you are.
But I wasn't getting paid more. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
I'm
true.
bringing more value to the workplace. I'm working hard,
Yeah.
but I'm not getting paid
No.
more than the lazy guy.
The next
to
guy,
me.
yeah.
And so I realized, well, as long as I work in an hourly wage position or a salary position, I'm probably not going to be rewarded for the extra effort I put in proportionately. You might be with bonuses depending on what kind of career you're in.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I said until I work directly for the customer, and I'm the person who sets pricing and makes the decisions as to who gets paid what and what gets allocated where, I'm not going to get paid proportionately for my effort. So I said, I got to go into something where I'm, making the top-down decisions.
Yeah.
And I get paid based on performance, not on time.
No, exactly. Now, saying all this and what you're talking about as far as like your career and where your children are and how you've kind of, slow your roll a little bit in a way, and then now you're trying to focus a little bit more on the family, and that's a great thing. Where do things like, you've talked about your spirituality a little bit, where does that lie with you? Like, where do you stand as far as like, so you said you're a Christian,
Yep.
right? And you're at the church here locally. Like, do you do anything? Like, are you a part? Like, I know when I went to church, I never really got myself involved with the secondary things. I was a Sunday morning church choir. I haven't gone in a while, but I do believe in God, Jesus. Now, to the degree of whatever, that's a story for another day. This is on you. But I never did the service part as far as I want to say like you know what, if you're collecting the money or whatever that is. And then when I went to rehab to get better, it really helped me because I'm a very selfish person. And I
don't
didn't
know
think,
anybody who isn't.
you know what? Okay, but I think I'm above the rest. No, I just think that I needed to work on that. And I never thought I was at the time, but I was. So when I helped other people get better, that's what made me feel good.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a long time. And make my story short here, I did it so much that it took away from family time. So I said, okay, Dave, you gotta, you know what I mean? So do you do anything like that?
Grandma's advice is always right? Everything in moderation.
Oh man, are you kidding me?
So there was a book I read. You probably saw the video. There's a guy named Jefferson Bethke, and he wrote a spoken word poem, and it blew up on YouTube, and it was called "Why I Hate Religion But I Love Jesus." And
No, I haven't, but maybe I have it. I'll check it out.
he wrote a book about it, and it was really good. And it was just the emphasis being on being a Christian isn't about being there on Sunday, about wearing nice clothes and maintaining your image in society and all that kind of stuff. It's about a genuine relationship with Christ. And that really helped my faith. And kind of while I was reading that, my dad had challenged me to read the book of Proverbs every day for 2 years. And he prefaced it by saying, son, you want to be rich. If you want to be rich, you need to read the book of Proverbs every single day for 2 years. He said there's 31 chapters in the book. They're not long chapters. You'll read it once a month, so you need to read it 24 times, and you'll be rich. Because it was written by King Solomon. It was the richest wisest and richest king who ever lived. And
he went through it all too. He tried to have a good time in every way and how, and then just realized
hundreds of concubines, 300 wives. He tasted the world. And the reason he said that is there's a book called The Wealthiest Man Who Ever Lived, and it was a study of a businessman who went through this principle of studying King Solomon and the benefits that the book of Proverbs brought to his life, professionally, personally, all that kind of stuff. And so I was reading these two books, Proverbs and Jesus is Greater Than Religion.
Yeah.
And it all just made a lot of sense in my head. And so, do I associate with my church? Absolutely. I'm a member of it, and I love serving the community through my church and things like that.
There's many different ways you can give money or different things, and some people don't have time to do this certain things in different regards to that. But
there's different resources, right? We've all been given time, talents, and treasures.
100%.
And the principle of tithing is giving 10% of the money you've been entrusted with by God.
Yeah.
But a lot of people forget, maybe I should be giving 10% of my time to other people that need it. And so a big theme in the book of Proverbs is mentorship.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a proverb that says a king doesn't go to war without many advisors. And it's like, well, if you're the king, you make all the calls, right?
Yeah.
Well, the wisest ones still surround themselves with a tribe of wiser people.
Well, yeah, and then you take in a consensus of, okay, so I want a bunch of opinions on what do you guys think I should do, and then you make the best decisions on the people around you.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because if everybody just agrees with you, then that's not necessarily what you want either. Because then you're just you have people that tell you what you want to hear, not necessarily what you need to.
Oh, dude.
And so that was huge for me. And so when I was thinking of getting married, I boarded it off 10 people that I trusted in my life that I genuinely thought wanted the best for me.
Yeah.
Not just what I wanted to hear.
Most people don't.
When I was thinking of quitting my job and doing real estate full time and quitting school and getting into work full time, whenever I'm doing those things, I bounce it off I call them my mentors.
Yeah.
And if you ask,
you're a smart guy, man. Not a lot of people.
I surround myself with smart people.
Well, that's okay. So that takes a guy with ego and to drop that and be able to do that. See, back then in the day, I would have never. No, I was smarter than you. Now I know I'm not the smartest man in the room. That's what I'm saying.
You never want to be.
No.
And so that principle was really good for me. And if you ask a really good mentor what you can do to repay them, their answer is always go do it for someone else.
100%.
It's not pay me back. It's do what I did to someone else.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
And so you know what? There's a Jim Rohn quote that says, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with."
I think that's true.
And it's similar to a lot of the themes in Proverbs. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to surround myself with wise people then. And so when I was young in my career, I started taking a whole bunch of realtors and mortgage brokers and lawyers out for lunch. And I'm like, how'd you get really good at what you do?
Good for you.
And I would buy them lunch and I'd try and soak up all the information. And then I'm like, you know what? I had a group of guys that I worked out with in high school, and we met every week, twice a week.
Were those fair weather friends?
6 a.m. Nope. Most of them were much older than me.
Okay.
And we would meet twice a week to lift weights. Actually, we're on Weigel Ave right now. It's just on Angel Court right over here.
Yeah.
So you might have heard of Adrian Ninabar, the powerlifting
Yep.
pastor.
Yeah.
So we would go to Adrian's house twice a week and lift weights, and we
Yeah.
would open in prayer and a little bit of study,
Really?
and
That's cool.
then lift weights for a while. And so I've always liked that stuff. My dad's always been involved in Promise Keepers, which is in Pactus now, and so he brought me up to a lot of that stuff. So
Saw your dad this morning at the gym, by the way.
did you?
Yeah, he's pretty hardcore, eh?
5 days a week,
Dude,
usually,
I see he's in good shape.
best shape he's ever been.
Like I remember when I cut some trees and trimmed some trees in his backyard, and I'm like, this guy's going up and down this hill like it's nothing, man. I'm like,
And he just turned 67.
he looks
this week.
good, man.
Yeah,
He looks good. Like,
he's disciplined.
yeah, you know what though? But I think I don't want to go off too far on that, but discipline like that I do well with. If I start my day with working out, and I don't know what it is, it's about some physical stuff, and I do physical labor.
Yep.
But I get up early. It just gives me structure, and I do so much better. And I always tell myself, I'm going to do really good this winter and the holidays. I'm going to get all this done. I don't get nothing done. I just slept for 3 days straight, man, because it was snowing.
Yeah.
Everybody's wondering where I was. I'm like, you know what? I just said I was sick, but I'm like, man, it's snowing outside. But I don't know. That's just with structure, I do well. Yeah. And saying structure, also with consistency and staying that way.
So the quote I mentioned earlier, Grandma's advice is everything in moderation. That's big out of Dave Ramsey. So one of my mentors, Tim, he put me through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University.
How'd you like that?
At 18. Highly recommend it. I'm actually thinking of running it at the Bridge.
He doesn't think like you though, as far as money. Like he's a pay it off kind of guy.
Not
No,
on the use of debt. Yeah,
Yes.
I would say we disagree on.
That's about the only thing probably.
that, but otherwise,
Yeah.
love all the principles.
Oh,
And
he's
so
got great principles.
A lot of what he says is just standard, good old advice.
It
you
is.
know? Everything in moderation. Don't buy things to impress people that you don't like, anyways. Like,
Well, no, it took me a long time to learn that.
and so one bit of Grandma's advice is idle hands are the devil's playground, right?
Yes,
and
they
so
are.
I found that if I just worked like crazy, I didn't have time to get into trouble. And if I wasn't working like crazy, well, then I needed to be working out. And so like right now I'm trying to really surround myself with as many positive influences and good mentors as I can. So we do a Wednesday night men's Bible study. Right now we're meeting twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, to lift weights, and we have a little devotional.
So you're still doing
first.
that?
We just started that up because I moved into my new house and got my gym set up. So we're doing that now. But yeah, I try and get together with not even necessarily just people from my church, but guys from the community that I see as good influences to me, and hopefully I am to them too.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
But yeah, my wife, she has a ladies' Bible study, then we have a men's Bible study, and then obviously we go to church
and you guys,
together as a family.
that's awesome, dude. So you're a very proactive guy when it comes down to that, because with structure, and like your grandma always says, what's the word you use? Moderation is the key to life. And I never knew how to moderate anything, man. Only thing I couldn't moderate was everything that felt good.
Well, and that's my thing is my flesh, my human desire is I do whatever feels good. So
Yeah.
if you're drinking, you're drinking. If you're eating, you're eating.
Yeah.
And so if I don't,
There's so many different things.
If I don't put some guards in place, which is like,
Yes.
oh, well, I need to be up early tomorrow to work out. And also the workout's at my house. So
Yeah.
I have 5 other people.
And you need to
counting
be
that come into
accountable.
my house.
You can't.
Accountability is huge. And,
Yeah.
and so being married now for almost 11 years, it'll be 11 years in June. My wife's a huge accountability partner, but then I have guys in my life that I'm accountable to, whether it's for work or professionalism or other areas of my life. And if you don't have accountability, then you do what feels good, and whatever feels good can be okay, again, in moderation. But
I see you as a when I called you last week and we decided to do this, and you said, is 10 o'clock next Thursday good? Oh my God, that's a ways out. But I'm like, he's a pretty specific time kind of guy. So I'm assuming you looked at your schedule.
yeah, so like we set up stuff at our office very scheduled. So we have
You have to there, eh?
You have to, and I mean, we have 5 offices, so you have staff at different offices, you have realtors at different offices, and so we got to structure things proactively ahead of time. But also, I drop my kids off, 2 of them at school 3 days a week, and 2 of them at daycare twice a week. Then my wife picks them up. So we're very structured in the mornings. We got to be out the door at 8:15 to get the kids to school and to daycare, and then I got to get into the office for whatever.
Because you showed up at 10 o'clock today.
Yeah, and then well, what's tonight look like? And we like to entertain at our house. We like to have other families over. So who's coming over tonight? Who's coming over tomorrow? Where do we have to be on the weekend? My wife's family lives out of town. So
That's a lot of structure.
if you don't have structure, what do you
I
have?
guess, but I can't. Yeah, your kids are young, man. I'm to the point where my kids are older, and it's like, man, I love my weekends free. And honestly, I spend them working. but doing the stuff that I love, like this kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for you, when you said that, I'm like, okay, this guy's a well-structured guy. He said, he was very specific. 10 o'clock next Thursday. Okay, so how do you know what you're doing at 10 o'clock next Thursday? So, because I keep a schedule where I know where I'm basically going to kind of work, but the weather plays a big factor in what I do.
Yeah.
So I can manipulate. But when I almost forgot because I didn't write it down. And I said yesterday, I'm like, oh man, I said, Cody's coming tomorrow. But then it snowed this morning. I'm like, I wonder if he's still going to come because the weather, and I wasn't sure. Because when you book that far out, for me, it's like, there's a lot of people cancel and stuff like that. But you seem like you're very,
No, if you make a commitment, you got to stick to it.
unless just something like an emergency happens.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean,
And you made that commitment and you stuck to it.
I don't like excuses. So typically, if I didn't answer a phone call or if I was late for an appointment, I'm not going to say I was late for this reason.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave, I was late. I shouldn't have been.
Just own up to it.
You don't want to hear the excuse.
No. Yeah.
I was wrong. You want to hear an apology, but you don't care why I was late. Unless it was like my family was in
Because you
danger.
know what? When you're late, you're wasting the other person's time.
Yep.
I'm an on-time kind of guy. I try to be. And because I was rushing to get this done because I just got the new wiring in and I got these new arms in. I was trying to, I'm like, crap. I said, Curtis, help me out here because Cody's going to be here soon. I want to make sure that the sound was on and everything else. But like when I come, like if say this was reversed and I was coming to your show and I'd be half hour early.
Yep.
And maybe that's too early for some people, but I'd rather be that than late.
Yep.
Because now I'm digging into someone else's schedule. You know what I mean?
Well, and so for me, it's I got to get my kids to school for this time. If it's on the weekend, we have church here, or kids skating at 4 on Sunday. Like there's things that we have to do, so we have to use our time effectively in between now and then. And just
Is there a rest day in there anywhere?
Yeah, you know what? For a long time, I didn't take a day off, so I worked 7 days a week, and I was pretty convicted by the idea of a Sabbath. And it was actually my professional coach, and he said, you know what, Cody, people like you work 7 days a week because you feel like you owe it to your clients.
Yeah.
And he said, if you're
People
honest
pleaser
with
again, right?
yourself, yeah, if you're honest with yourself, he goes, you're actually less productive every day you work in a row. And he's a huge numbers guy, and he coaches people for a living. And he said, look, every day you work in a row without taking a day off, you're 2% less efficient at what you do or effective.
Because you're burnt out.
And he goes, so if you work 30 days in a row, like compound that 2%, how effective are you?
Is that an actual stat?
That's his stat. I don't know how you.
Well,
can
I mean,
prove
I
it.
don't know how he got to that, but I mean, I can see it.
Burnout comes.
Oh, dude, I know. I worked
So
like
to
that.
me, it's a biblical principle, which is you take a day of rest and you give it to God. But whether you're Christian or not, working 7 days a row for forever isn't great. Now
I've done it. Trust me, I've done it.
Farmers, for example. Okay, well, harvest comes once a year.
Yeah,
you got to
season.
work 7 days a week. Then
you're
whatever. And I would even challenge some to still take a day off a week
If they can, right?
Yep.
They only have such certain amount of time, though.
And same thing for you. Your work is seasonal.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta.
I gotta make the hay when the sun shines, man. Basically,
Exactly.
that's what it
Yeah.
is.
How much tree trimming are you gonna do when it's -10 and snowing?
Exactly. So, but then I try to prepare for that. But also, I know if I keep going, I get burnt out, man, and then I'm tired. Then something could happen, accidentally in a tree where I'm like, I'm not sharp.
Fall
So
asleep driving a car, you name it, stuff can happen,
dude.
right? So he goes, you need, for the sake of your clients, you actually need to stress the importance to them that you take a day off a week. And
that's
so
very smart, man.
a friend of mine, I called him and his voicemail said, hey, this is Steve. If I'm not answering your call, it's because I'm with a client right now.
Yeah.
Unless it's Saturday.
Yeah.
He goes, Saturday is my family day. So-and-so will return your call.
Well, dude, that's
So if
somebody that
it's-
knows what they stand for.
If it's urgent, call, let's say his name was Joe. But he goes, if it's not Saturday, I'll give you a call back right away. And if it's not urgent, leave a voicemail. I'll call you back on Sunday. And I was like, so you can do it.
Yeah.
And so I started taking Mondays off.
Good for you.
And it was a great thing.
Because a lot of your work's on the weekend too, right?
It was.
So, yeah.
So I was like, I can't really take Saturdays and Sundays off. That's when we do open houses and showings. But I can take Mondays off. And that was a huge help to put that little bit of structure and discipline in there. And I feel I
for
owed it to
sure.
my family. They've been patient with me for a long time.
Yeah. No, and I would feel the same. But okay, so let's move forward from there. So where you are now in life, and okay, so when I started this podcast, I don't know who was first or second, and it's not about that. All of a sudden, and I started off not knowing a darn thing about any of this technical stuff, and someone told me you started one, and I'm like, oh, and honestly, I was a little jealous. I'm like, man, I thought I was the only guy in the game, you know what I mean? And I was very rookyish. I didn't have any of these Rode mics or any of this. Not that I couldn't afford them, just because I tried it at first, and it was too much to handle. I didn't know enough.
Yep.
So then I had to downgrade everything, basically iPhone and just a mic. That's it.
Yep.
And I learned from that. And then YouTube, we were talking about that earlier. But so what inspired you to do a podcast, man? Because you're a very vocal guy. You're very
Yeah, so I would say it's influence, which is in a sense passive selling,
okay.
right? So I sell real estate, or at least I did. Now I own a real estate brokerage, but now I want to equip my realtors, and I want to attract more realtors that are of similar values, opinion, work.
So is that what your show's about? Can you tell us about that a little bit?
So the show is called the Everything Real Estate Show, and
Yeah.
and
And we'll link that. I'll link that below on everything.
appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem.
So when I say everything real estate, it's we sell real estate, so we'll talk about sales. But I believe heavily in owning real estate. So as an entrepreneur, you don't get a pension. So
Yeah.
for me and a lot of the realtors in real estate industry and sales, we believe owning real estate is the source of our pension.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well, yeah, that's
build up a rental portfolio with some passive income
Yeah,
that appreciates over
that's your
time
retirement
while
plan.
your tenants pay down equity. So we want to talk about that. And for a new realtor just getting into it, I really want to push you guys need to be buying what you're selling. That,
Yeah.
you know, you can have a great year one year, but you're going to pay a ton in income tax. And if you don't retain an asset out of it, what are you going to do for inflation, right? How do you
Good for you.
guard your family for inflation? So we like to talk about investing, developing, building. The more education that you have, the better you're going to be as a service to your clientele. So my whole thing is, look, I've been given a lot of good mentors, and they've given me a lot of advice. Now to hang on to all that and not give it to anybody is selfish.
100%. I think you should give it away. It's a gift.
And I own a real estate company, so I'm like, well, I might as well give it to my realtors so that they can serve the families.
You know what? The harder you hold on to that, I honestly believe in, like, when I went through recovery again, I always go back to that a little bit because that's where I got taught most of my stuff is to give what you were given and don't hold, even with my job right now, like you're doing, I have trained 5 climbers and 3 of them have stopped working for me to start their own business. And I wish them nothing but the best.
Yeah.
And
you
I
might
think
even subcontract them in the future.
exactly. And I have.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think that's tenfold. It'll give back. People don't understand that. The ones that hold on to the money so tight, you're just, I don't know, to me,
A scarcity mindset isn't a good thing.
no,
And that's what
turns
that
into a bad
is.
person. Not, you know what I mean, man. It's just,
So Tim, one of my biggest mentors, he's always said to me, Cody, you got to live with an open hand. He goes,
Tim's a good guy.
If you close your hand, you're going to keep what you had, maybe,
yeah.
but you're also blocking God from allowing other blessings
Oh,
to flow into your life. And so
more
he goes, if you live
opportunities.
with an open hand, some things from your life are going to leave. And, you know, it's going to look like they were taken by others, but you're also allowing other blessings to flow in.
Yeah. So this podcast that you've started, the Everything Real Estate Show, love the name. Did you name that?
Yep.
So that's just another avenue of not only giving back, but man, for the community also to really put, and you know what I love about the real estate business? You guys put a picture to the name of the company where most companies in my industry don't do that. I do it,
Yep.
but most don't. And so,
We're talking like our business cards and our signs
yeah,
actually have a photo of the face.
yeah, but you know what? How many people like that? And how many people have told me on my ads when I put them out, I got a picture on my ad, and they're like, "We love it. We
know
put
who we're dealing with."
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just another, I think, another good way to do it. So now that you're out on your own podcast, people can see you. Now they know how you talk. They know your mannerism. They say, "Hey, this guy," and for people that never met you, you know, and you're a kind guy, and they kind of get to know you through that show. Just another avenue, and like you said, you're giving it away and getting back tenfold, I think,
Well,
but
and
also paying for it at the same time.
Yeah, if we talk about the rule of leverage, because we talked about Dave Ramsey. So Dave
Yeah.
Ramsey doesn't like using debt for leverage. I like to leverage what I can where there's benefit.
If it makes sense.
And put safeguards in place too. And so if I want to help other realtors, my time is finite. There's only so much of it. I got to give some to my business and I got to give some to my family.
Yeah.
But having videos and podcasts, they're evergreen. It stays out there. And so you can leverage your time a lot more. Because if you bottle up that wisdom and then put it into a video that you can send out in a link
Yeah.
or a podcast that you can send someone to listen to,
Or just a short or whatever. Just,
well, then you can potentially, you know, pass on your wisdom to hundreds or thousands rather than, you know, 10 or 20 or 50.
Well, you know what's cool about that? I do you know Patrick Bet David?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't
watch-
know him.
But no, okay, I don't. But you know of him.
Yeah.
Have you? And I watch his show a lot. He's got some good principles and stuff like that. And he's just that type of guy. You know what? What point was I getting to? Gee.
Leverage.
Yeah. So, but right after that, what were we saying as far as leverage concerned?
Time and influence.
Oh man, I lost myself. That sucks. It'll come back. But
Okay. So yeah, what I was going to say is having a podcast that allows me to be in front of more people and give that advice to more people. But also when I was selling real estate and I was really, really busy, I'm straight to business. So someone would shoot me a text and I would answer only the question that they asked. Kind of like when you're going through the border, you don't elaborate, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I was doing the right thing by just giving them the answer to their question.
Oh, you never say hi? How's it going?
And then I would meet with them in person. They'd be like, "You joke, you're happy.
Yeah.
Like, I thought you were just all business." And I'm like,
Because you're
"You
on the
wanted
phone."
an answer. I gave you the answer." And so our coaching organization keeps saying all the time, like, so much tone is lost in text, right? So you could send someone an email and it seems so formal and they think you're upset with them.
Yeah.
And then you go meet with them and you're like, "No, I just wanted you to know that."
I totally
Right.
agree.
And so they go, so much tone is lost in email and text. So a phone call is always better than an email or text.
I agree. But a lot of people want to call anymore, man.
But in a phone call, you also don't see body language.
Yeah.
And so you could be sarcastic on the phone, but someone might think that you're being serious.
Yeah.
Right. I had this issue when our kids were starting school and they were still wearing masks because of COVID.
Yeah.
We were told all summer break that JKs wouldn't have to wear masks. And then 6 days before school was supposed to start, we pulled our kids from the school they were supposed to go to,
Yep.
put them in a private one,
Yep.
because they said, no, JKs have to wear masks now. And I said, well, no, our kids don't know that many adults.
Yeah.
If you're wearing a mask, they're not going to see the expression on your face. They're not going to know if you're joking or if you're angry.
Yeah.
They're not going to understand how to properly enunciate words.
Bad time in
They
our
need
lives,
to,
man.
to learn person to person. And so same thing. He goes, so much tone is lost in text or email, so phone calls are better. But you can't see body language in a phone call. You can see body language and tone in a video. So if you can't be there in person, be there in video. If you can't be there in video, it should be voice, either phone call or recording. And, text and email, it's there for necessity, but ideally person or video.
I've had people tell me, please don't call me, just text me. Now for me, I'm like you. I like that personal. Like for me to call somebody, or text, I'll actually take the time and say, hey, good morning, how are you? Now, that's another person, like you were direct to the point, right? And I just start that way just because, I don't know, I think it builds rapport. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And, so
and it
that was
shows the human side.
That was the criticism to me, is like, you're just straight to business. Like,
Yeah.
who's the
and
person?
I think that's showing that if you do that, like this kid just cares about money.
Well, and I thought I was doing them a favor by giving them the answer with no fluff.
Really, eh?
Right?
See, I wouldn't think that way. I would think the other way around. If I gave him the time of day to listen.
So this was speaking with other people in the industry, not necessarily customers.
Yeah.
Right? So a realtor calls me, what are the property taxes?
I got what you're saying. Okay.
Well, they're $4,000. Not, oh, hey, Dave, how's it going? I hope you're having a great day. Yeah, they're about $4,000. Do you want to know anything else about the house? No, I answered your question.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you wanted?
You're a direct to point kind of guy though too.
Well, and it was an efficiency thing. Like,
yeah. Oh, 100%.
But I realized no tonality came through, so people were misinterpreting who
when
I
they
actually
actually
was as a
met
person.
you.
Yep.
Yeah, no kidding. So what I was gonna say back when I forgot what I was gonna say is I watched your show, and when did you start? About what, 6-8 months ago, something like that?
Probably around 6 months ago.
Yeah. So like I said, we were in the same area, but you stayed on a little bit longer because I took the summer off. But I watched the growth from when you started, and I see your body language. Do you ever go back and watch?
I listen to all of them. Well, I listen to the new one every week.
Okay, so
but I don't go back to the old ones as much.
Go back to the old ones and watch your body language, because I see it with myself.
Okay.
And I watch, and I don't want to be critical of you at all. I just see the growth in how well you're doing, because I did the same. Like, I'll give you, like, the hands were together a little bit. I don't know if that was you or somebody else, but you're not that you were shy, because you're very you're an outgoing person. That's just your personality, I think. Yeah. So, but I see how loosened up you've gotten over the shows. But that everybody learns a way. Like, podcasting is a whole different game where you just turn, like what's his name says, Mr. Beast, just turn on the camera and start. No one's gonna like. Most people won't like it. They won't pay attention. It takes time to grow that. Audience, and I think you're doing well. And literally, like, if you go back and watch your first couple shows,
Yep.
to how structured, and now I see a relaxed guy.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I appreciate
No,
it.
I mean that, and I don't even mean like your first podcasts were bad at all. I just see the growth. It's like anything else, man. If you're a real estate guy and you're starting out, you're not going to be great at it first. You might be good. Not gonna be great, and there's always. I just see it, and I'm like, I just see a way more relaxed guy now, and I was like, I just see the growth, and
it can be intimidating at the start too, right?
Oh,
so I was
yeah.
like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do one,
try talking to yourself. You ever do that on your own? That's a rough go.
so I was like, if I'm gonna do one, I need to take in the advice that everybody's giving, and so like some of the advice was, it needs to be released regularly.
It does.
So if it's going to be weekly,
See, you're good. You
you have
study
to put one out every single. Mine's Mondays at 8. And
regimen, man,
Your,
with this
your
stuff.
people have to expect an episode every Monday at 8. And so Mel and Jer, who produced mine for me, they're like, "So what are we doing over Christmas? You taking a break?" And I was like, "Well, no, because
I
people
put a small
expect
one
one
out. Yeah,
every Monday at 8. And if you don't keep putting one out, then you're going to lose that regimen."
yeah,
And I mean, I guess going back to earlier is my week has to be very structured. And that's
Yeah.
from another coaching organization I'm a part of, is they have you fill out what your ideal week is.
yeah.
And they want you to structure your year and your career around your ideal week. So is it making time to work out? Is it making time for date night? Is it making time for spending time with
sure.
each child? Is it making time for prospecting? Is it making time for following up with old clients? Is it for you, okay, maybe I'm not trimming a lot of trees right now, but I need to put in time for maintenance. Or if I don't want to do maintenance, then
yeah.
I need to put in, okay, what
Proactive,
am I doing
right?
to make money to
Preventive
pay
maintenance.
someone else to do the maintenance? Or so
Yeah.
structure it how you want it to be, and then do it very, very regularly.
You are smart that way. I'm glad you researched that, because I know I took a break and I took a hit because I watched my analytics
Yep.
from 2018. And that's all. And then from when I started being consistent with my podcast, it doesn't even matter what kind of content you have. There's content for everybody. Whether it's real estate or car shopping, whatever you want to talk about, there's following for it, as long as you stay consistent, and you've obviously taken the time to study that. Now, like from the subscribership part of it, you'll lose those guys if you don't stay consistent. They expect it's like a regular TV program for them. They can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, if Wheel of Fortune comes on at 6:30 every night for forever, and then one day it doesn't,
Does your show air at a certain time or no? Or a certain day?
it gets released every Monday at 8.
Oh, you even have time. Good for you, man. See, mine's kind of toward the end of the week, and I really didn't pick a day yet. But I
pick a
try
day.
Thursday or Friday. No, see, I know.
And then so I even make those podcasts like a part of my week. So like I have one that I know comes out Sunday, and I listen to that one every Sunday. There's one I really like that comes out Friday. I listen to that in the car on Friday or Saturday. And so then I even structure my drive around the podcast that I'm going to listen to. A friend of mine, when I was really young in my career, really got me into audiobooks. And so love audiobooks.
Like Audible or
Yep. And so I listened to audiobooks like crazy, and I feel like I got a college education just from listening to
That's where
so
all the
many
knowledge comes
audiobooks.
from.
And so like Darren Hardy, he's an author, and he's got a book called The Compound Effect and the Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster and all that kind of stuff. And he goes like, use your time effectively. If you're driving, you should have he's talking from the 90s, a CD,
And you guys
a
like you
CD
drive a
case
lot.
full of
CD
self-help
cases.
and whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, well, so I did that with Audible, and I had audiobooks going all the time in the car. And if I was driving 60,000 kilometers a year, I'm like, okay, well, I'm taking in a lot of knowledge. You can only listen to so much country music. Like,
Yeah, dude, it gets it. My brother, long story short here on my brother, he used to drive semi-truck, my older brother.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had them rip the CD player out, put a cassette player in, and there's this old guy who taught the Bible, read it from cover to cover, and that's how you read the Bible. Literally through trucking. And he just says noise, like you said, you don't listen to music, it becomes noise. And it's a headache after a while, because truckers drive a lot, and guys like you, real estate, whatever, you guys drive a lot. So, and like you make a good point. Like, I don't even listen to music when I'm driving. I don't listen to nothing, actually. I like peace of mind, because those chainsaws are loud, dude. And it's like and then when I hear the music on, when I get in the trucks, I'm like, okay, I don't mind the guys listen, just turn it off before I get back in there, man.
well, and so for me, it's another principle of leverage, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're already using your time to drive.
Yeah.
Can you use it for something better in
Good for
addition
you.
to that? And so for me, it was Audible. It was listening to audiobooks like crazy. I got through a lot of the books that I wanted to listen to, and then podcasts became a thing. And I'm like, okay, well now I don't
love
listen
it.
to music. I just listen to podcasts all day when I'm driving.
Doesn't
and
it
so
make your
now
time go by, though?
I'm not just driving in between locations now.
Yeah.
I'm actually gaining knowledge and
Yes, you
wisdom while I'm driving to where I need to be anyways. So it's been a great
What's
thing.
your, what are your favorite podcasts? Like, do you have
I
a
like
few?
the Looney Hour, which is
know
basically macroeconomics for Canadians.
Yeah.
So
a good learning one.
Investor, the
Yeah.
truth about real estate investing for Canadians, the Tom Story Show, Richard Robbins podcast.
What's that, Richard Robbins?
He's a coach for
Okay.
professionals.
Do you
in
have
real
any like
estate.
just a podcast where you could just like sit back? Do you listen to any politics or any kind of stuff like that? Do you have any?
I used to,
But you find that you're not learning anything out of it?
you get angry.
I
And it's
know
like,
you
for
do.
What? Like
I get it,
I used
dude.
to have a huge opinion on U.S. politics. I'm like, I can't even vote. What's the point of me getting
know,
vocal
dude.
about U.S. politics? Even in Canadian politics. Like I was involved in the last provincial election, helping with a friend of mine run for a party, and I'm like,
I get it. It's like watching the news every day, man.
well, the education component for Canadians en masse do not understand politics, and I'm sure Americans don't either. But the last provincial election, people are like, "How do we get Justin Trudeau out?" And I'm like, I don't know, in 2025 when there's a federal election. This is a provincial one.
Well,
People didn't understand
There should be
that.
one election right now, but that's,
But
he
people,
blocked that
and
off.
I'm like, okay, so here I am trying to vouch for a party
Yeah.
that I think is a good party, and these people don't even know.
The people that are
what the
actually
election's for.
representing that, and you're helping, and you've got more knowledge than they do. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying the average Canadian,
Oh, I see.
first off, doesn't even vote. If you look
No,
at how many people
it's
actually
very
get out and
low.
vote, it's very,
Very
low.
low.
And then the people that do vote, do they actually understand what they're voting for? And what I realized through that whole thing is that we put so much effort into running this campaign, didn't get elected, but even if he did,
Yeah.
he's subject to a term. And I realized that his influence in Canadian politics or Ontario politics was going to be,
Minute.
well, it was going to be, he loses that influence after his term expires,
Yeah.
right? So next election, it's over. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything that Elon Musk does,
Yeah.
but that guy has more influence on politics than most politicians.
Yeah.
But his term doesn't come to an end 4 years from
No,
now,
it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
right? And so I look at how...
And you're always fighting for that next 4 years. You better please the right people to get to those next 4 years.
And I look at, so Canadian politics and Ontario politics, Doug Ford, Justin Trudeau, they don't care the political stance of Stellantis
Yeah.
or Volkswagen, but they gave billions of dollars to those companies because they were going to employ a bunch of Canadians. And I realized their influence is by employing Canadians.
Yeah.
It's not by being in politics. And they're influencing politics more than politicians because every party was willing to try to please them because they employ Canadians. So I'm
Exactly.
like, well, heck, if you want an influence that isn't limited to a term by being elected,
Yeah.
then you need to employ a bunch of people and have a business that makes a positive influence on the country or the community or the province.
Let me ask you a question. You don't have to answer it, but what do you think of Trump? You don't have to give a super crazy opinion. Are you a conservative, a liberal, or in between kind of guy? What are you? Or an independent kind of guy?
Almost libertarian.
Yeah? You lean on that side then?
Yeah. And so this is what I've said about Trump. I think he is a reverse hypocrite. So
Okay.
most hypocrites say, do this, and then do the opposite. So do as I say, not say as I do.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think if Trump were to shut up
Yeah.
and just enacted policy, a lot more people would love him because he says a lot of stupid stuff.
Oh, I think he says a lot of stupid
But
things.
if you look at the policy he puts in place,
I think he does a great job.
it's great policy.
Yeah, he does. His mouth
Fiscally-
gets us in trouble, man.
Fiscally, socially, I love what he's done for the pro-life movement. I
Yeah.
love what he's done for
I think it's great for
corporate tax rates. Like the economy roars when he's in presidency, but he says a lot of stupid stuff. And
I
it's
know.
like, dude, if you just shut up and just let
He
your
can't.
policies
He can't
speak
do
for-
it. He can't do
help
it.
himself.
Now, see, like I like Trump, and I agree with you, and I like his policies and everything else, and I really like that he believes in God and stuff like that, and
And I think he's
our
a
values.
baby Christian. but
Yeah, no. He, you know what? It's
he's
not
in a
it's not our
faith
choice
journey,
to
that's
to
for
judge
sure.
anyway, right?
Yep.
But it's nice to have somebody that you're 100% right. I think the same thing. But it's nice to have somebody that's their kind of, you know what I mean?
Well, I look at Pierre and I listened to the interview with him and Peterson. Like the guy says a lot of really
That
good
was
stuff.
good stuff. That was good.
Don't know if I trust him 100%.
Which one, Peterson or Pierre? Or both?
Because Pierre's a career politician. He's never had a career
You know
outside
what?
of Ottawa.
I don't know if I don't know how to.
I think fiscally he'll be great. I don't agree with a lot of his social policy already, so I don't even know if I'll vote for the guy.
Yeah. So do you go on based on who your leader is going to be, or do you go on party? Or do you just wait till however you feel when that moment comes because you don't even know what's going on yet until? Or do you not vote?
No, I definitely vote.
Okay.
And I think
So you have a
that
say.
we should get. I think we should get a license to complain when we vote.
What we got here?
So in other words, if like at the voting polls, hey Dave, thanks for coming out. Here's your license to complain for the next 4 years. If you didn't vote,
You don't have a say. You don't have a say.
no, you're just gonna go complain. But when you have a chance to have a say, you
That's
don't
the-
even show up.
But that's the majority. They don't vote, and then they complain at the coffee shops.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't say I necessarily vote for the party or the leader. I think it's important for us to vote for our local representative and what they're
Okay,
going to do
the
for
municipal?
us here. But I would say I vote more for what do I think is going to more align with my values.
Yeah, and your morals.
Fiscal policy is important, but I believe responsibility to fellow man is more important than monetary policy. But typically, monetary policy and the social policy that I subscribe to typically end up on the right side. But I believe most of our parties now are centrist on most issues.
Yeah, maybe you should run for mayor. What do you think?
No,
Why not?
don't want to.
10 years
happy-
from now,
just
10
let
years,
me-
Cody Kraus is mayor of Kingsville or mayor of Leamington. Who knows?
No,
eh?
thanks. Just let me run my business and my family.
you
and
know
I'm good
what?
over there. I told my pastor, I said, I'll become a pastor before I go into politics.
Oh, Yeah, that's they're both rough.
I don't think I'll go into ministry formally. I'm happy to do it on a volunteer basis. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to help out politicians on a volunteer basis.
Yeah.
But I don't think
You're
you're
part of the
gonna see me run
community,
for a
and
term.
that's good for you. Okay, so I know you got to go, and we're going to wrap up here. Again, the Everything Real Estate Show. Where do you guys podcast on? Like, do you have different platforms?
Everywhere, YouTube, Amazon.
You're everywhere.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get in contact with you, and I'll link all the stuff down below. So
It's on Apple. It's on Spotify.
yeah, man, I wish I had the crew you had to take care of, because I have to do it all myself. But you know what? It's been a good journey learning it all, and then editing, and that's my longest thing is to edit. It's like, oh man. But I talked to Mal, I think it was, and she said that you guys just shoot mostly,
Yep.
and it becomes the show.
Yep.
Very little. I try to take nothing out of the show. I try to keep my language clean here. For the most part, it is. And some people throw a word in here and there, and I'm like, I tell them, but it is what it is. And it's just like, if you give the authentic version of the show and the mistakes happen. One time I knocked over a can. I'm like, I picked it up. I didn't edit it out because the conversation was going good, you know?
Well, and you're human. You're gonna make mistakes.
Exactly,
so-
and people don't mind that.
Yeah.
So again, Cody, thanks a lot for coming out, man. And I wish you the best of luck in the show and wherever your life takes you, buddy.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Best to you too, Dave.
Thank
Thanks.
you. See you guys. Have a good night.
Bye.